In the bitter winter of 1847, the workers at the Milbrook Falls Textile Company stumbled on a discovery that would haunt their town for generations. Beneath a section of loose floorboards, they uncovered hidden boxes filled with records documents. That revealed a secret far darker than any of them could have imagined. Those records told of the Weatherbe family, the founders of the mills, and the rulers of Milbrook Falls, a family that had bound itself together through cousin marriages generation after generation. At the very center of that twisted legacy stood Silas Weatherbe, a man who would take not one, not two, but three of his own cousins, his wives, producing children that never walked freely in town, hidden behind locked doors and shuttered windows. The truth discovered that cold day forced officials, clergy, and doctors to conceal evidence for decades. Before we continue with the story of Silas Weatherbe and the empire he built on blood, take a moment to subscribe for more Sinister histories and share in the comments where you are watching, because you may be surprised to learn how many communities buried stories just like this one. The town of Milbrook Falls in the middle of the 19th century was a place of booming growth. A farming settlement of 300 souls had transformed into an industrial hub of 2,000 residents. The Weatherbe mills lined both banks of the Milbrook River, their red brick walls stretching for half a mile. 4 enormous factories produced cloth and garments shipped across the nation. The thunder of the looms echoed constantly like a mechanical heartbeat. In the valley at the top of this empire stood Silas Weatherbe, 43 years old, sharp-featured, lean, and severe. His dark hair already streaked with silver, his eyes pale and cold. His presence demanded respect and fear. Workers studied his moods, the tightening of his eyes when output slipped, the clench of his jaw when questions turned to family, his long fingers tapping on his desk when planning further expansion. His home rose above the mills, a mansion built of granite, 3 stories high, surrounded by manicured grounds. The facade announced permanence and power, yet always the third-floor windows remained shuttered. Though at night faint light leaked through cracks, servants answered questions about the upper floors with nervous silence. The family also controlled the town's religious life. The First Congregational Church, with its white spire, dominated the skyline, built with Weatherbe money. Its pulpit, commanded by Reverend Josiah Holbrook, a fiery preacher whose sermons emphasized duty, purity, and divine favor for chosen families. The timing of his arrival matched the moment. Silas gained control of the mills. Together, they reinforced a system where the Weatherbes stood unchallenged above all others. Beneath the Weatherbes were supervisors, craftsmanship owners, like the Hutchinsons with their company store, and the Brewsters with their boarding house. Then came the masses of mill workers, crowded into wooden tenements along the river, Irish fleeing famine, French Canadians seeking work, New England farmers leaving ruined fields. They toiled 12-hour days in dangerous mills filled with dust, fire risk, and unguarded machinery. Yet the Weatherbe Company paid reliable wages, maintained housing, and even offered medical care through their family physician. Silas himself often visited the factories. His uncanny recall of names and family details made workers believe he cared. But whispers grew that his questions about wives and children were too intense, too invasive. The Weatherbe reach spread everywhere. They funded the school, the library, the cemetery, the railroad depot. Even the local newspaper depended on their advertising. The editor never printed anything that would harm them. Within the extended family, each important office was filled by a cousin or uncle. Ezra handled finances, Jeremiah directed operations, Caleb served as Dr. Rebecca married the magistrate. Every decision circled back to Weatherbe blood. By 1854, townsfolk wondered why Silas had never taken a wife. Some thought him devoted only to business, but none imagined the truth. On a crisp October morning, Reverend Holbrook announced from the pulpit that Silas would marry Patience Weatherbe, daughter of his uncle Ezra. The congregation sat frozen in silence. Patience, 24, delicate, with pale skin, gray eyes, and dark braids, sat motionless in The family pew heard dress elegant, yet conservative whispers spread immediately. Cousin marriage shocked. Many French Canadians spoke of church laws against it. Irish workers muttered about curses falling on children. Others dismissed the concern, but the unease grew. Dr. Marcus Penfield, a young physician from Boston, independent from Weatherbe influence, dared to raise objections. He met Silas in his office, warning that such unions risked hereditary weakness. Silas calmly dismissed him, citing scripture, where patriarchs married kin, and asserting the Weatherbe line was pure. Reverend Holbrook, he said, had confirmed divine approval. Penfield left unsettled and began recording his thoughts in a private journal. The November wedding was unlike others. In town subdued, lacking music or dancing, limited to close kin and select leaders' workers. Given the day off, were not invited. Patients appeared fragile, speaking vows so softly that few heard. Silas seemed composed, more like a man sealing a contract than joining a bride. Gossip erupted. Boarding houses, taverns, and tenements buzzed. French Canadians spoke of forbidden unions. Irish women spoke of children born twisted. Americans laughed nervously, but all agreed it felt unnatural. Penfield watched closely. Patients grew weaker each month, thin, pale, moving carefully. When asked, she said her uncle Caleb tended her health, avoiding outside physicians. Penfield noted signs of deep anxiety or hidden illness, his journal filled with suspicions. Then other disturbances arose. Workers who joked about the Weatherbe family suddenly vanished, leaving behind tools and clothes. Mrs. Brewster confided to Penfield that men asking questions about Weatherbe marriages were dismissed and left town overnight. Her fear grew that something darker was unfolding. Patients soon collapsed, confined to bed under Dr. Caleb's care. Rumors spread that Silas would marry again, another cousin, Prudence Weatherbe, daughter of Caleb, though patients still lived. Reverend Holbrook thundered in sermons that chosen families carried divine burdens, that critics lacked faith. Townsfolk were horrified. Penfield offered aid again. Silas refused, coldly claiming family doctors understood their constitution better within weeks. Patients died. Her funeral small and private, and only days later Silas married Prudence. The secrecy and speed outraged the town. What had been whispers now became open suspicion, yet no one dared challenge Weatherbe power. Prudence, though outwardly vibrant, showed nervous energy, speaking rapidly, moving restlessly, as if under immense strain. Penfield observed intimidation, spreading. Outspoken workers punished compliant families, rewarded rents, lowered housing, improved. Children admitted to the company school, while those who questioned the family faced inspections, fines, or sudden dismissals. Mrs. Brewster, forced to spy on her tenants, secretly handed Penfield a notebook filled with records, years of incidents. Workers punished after curiosity, accidents following, jokes about the family. Most troubling of all, though, was her observation that though both Patience and Prudence had appeared pregnant, no children were ever seen. No births announced, no infants brought to church. The third floor of the mansion remained shuttered, though faint light flickered at odd hours. Rumors spread of hidden offspring. Penfield concluded that the absence of visible children revealed something far more disturbing. Another collapse struck Prudence, said to suffer exhaustion. Soon Silas declared intent to wed another cousin. Charity Weatherbe, daughter of Nathaniel, shock spread across town. Reverend Holbrook defended the plan again, calling it divine mystery. Penfield recognized the marriages or part of a systematic design. He resolved to uncover the truth, and a servant, young Mary Catherine O'Brien, newly hired, approached him. After church, whispering urgently, she revealed that the third floor held locked rooms filled with children. Deformed, broken, crying at night, she described twisted limbs, swollen heads, blank stares, cries echoing through the halls. 3 servants, bound by secrecy agreements, cared for them. She spoke of years of hidden offspring concealed from the world. Penfield's medical training told him she spoke truth. Inbreeding had produced abnormalities. The Weatherbes imprisoned their own children to protect their image. Mary Catherine confessed she'd seen a log of their care stretching back many years. Penfield realized the family had concealed this for generations. He knew that remaining silent would make him complicit. He planned infiltration during the pre-wedding reception for charity. He would create distraction. Mary Catherine would help, and he would gather evidence, photographs, documents, and testimonies that could reveal the family's crimes to the wider world. But he also knew that each step placed his own life at risk. The night of the reception arrived cold and heavy with snow. The Weatherbe mansion filled with relatives and chosen guests. Reverend Holbrook town clerk Samuel Weatherbe and other loyal allies drank and praised Silas. Mary Catherine moved silently through the room, serving food and wine, carrying out the plan. She slipped a mild emetic into the punch bowl. Soon several guests doubled over with nausea. Reverend Holbrook staggered, pale, clutching his stomach. Dr. Caleb Weatherbe was too old and too drunk to handle so many sick at once. Silas reluctantly allowed Dr. Marcus Penfield to assist Penfield-treated guests while Mary Catherine hurried to his side, speaking loud enough for others to hear. She said that a child upstairs was having fits and needed medical attention. Silas froze, eyes darting toward the stair, his face white with dread. With so many witnesses, he had no choice. He nodded stiffly and told Penfield to go. Mary Catherine guided him up the narrow stair to the dreaded third floor. What awaited was worse than anything his journal had prepared him for. The corridor stank of waste and sickness. 6 doors lined the hall, heavy locks on each one. Muffled cries leaked from behind them. Penfield peered through a window into room 4. A boy, around 14, convulsed in violent seizure, his body writhing on a stained mattress across the hall. A girl about 10 rocked endlessly, hitting her head against the wall, her skull-scarred room. 3 held twin infants there, heads swollen, limbs twisted, eyes wandering without focus. Penfield's heart pounded as he realized these were Silas's hidden children, the living proof of years of cousin marriages. Mary Catherine whispered that 3 servants cared for them nightly and had been doing so for decades. Penfield entered the records room. Mary Catherine unlocked a cabinet. Inside lay journals written by Dr. Caleb Weatherbe, entries dating back more than 20 years, cold notes describing breeding like livestock, marriages arranged to concentrate bloodlines, children categorized by defects, those deemed unmanageable eliminated the leather. Journal detailed deaths of at least a dozen offspring blamed on natural causes, but clearly orchestrated. Penfield photographed pages quickly using his hidden camera. Then he heard footsteps. Silas Weatherbe stormed into the hall, fury blazing, his voice low and sharp, accusing Penfield of betrayal. He claimed the children received better care than any state asylum. He argued that exposing them would bring scandal, ruin, collapse for the whole community. He spoke as though cruelty was mercy, insisting that the greater good demanded secrecy. Penfield stood his ground, calling it abuse, imprisonment, murder. The air vibrated with tension. Mary Catherine whispered that Jeremiah Weatherbe and others were climbing the stairs to trap them. Silas threatened Penfield, warning that he stood alone against a dynasty. Penfield shoved past him, forcing his way toward the stair. Jeremiah and his men blocked the path, but voices from downstairs called for Silas, and Jeremiah hesitated, unwilling to risk open violence with guests below. Penfield fled the mansion, clutching his evidence. He knew that his life was marked. He spent the night writing a full account, preparing copies, sending letters to colleagues in Boston and Portland, describing genetic damage from cousin unions. He left instructions with Mary Catherine, hiding the medical bag in the servants' quarters, warning that if he did not return, she must carry it to state authorities. 3 nights later, townsfolk found his body in the Milbrook River. The official story declared a tragic accident on icy rocks. Mary Catherine knew she had seen men following him. She had heard a struggle near the bridge. She alone carried the truth. She carried the evidence to Augusta, the state capital. The attorney general, skeptical, at first believed when he saw the photographs and journals. Officials, physicians, and agents of the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Children raided the mansion on February 14, 1857. What they discovered horrified even hardened men. The third floor held not 6, but 8 rooms. 2 recently emptied the remaining. Children malnourished, 6 scarred, all showing signs of genetic damage caused by years of intermarriage. Some bore injuries from neglect, others from deliberate abuse. The records of Dr. Caleb revealed everything, not only hidden children, but planned. Elimination of many, his notes described deaths by starvation, withholding of care, deliberate neglect, more than a dozen lost in 20 years. Silas was arrested along with Uncle Caleb, cousin Jeremiah, and servants who enforced secrecy. Charity Weatherbe, recently married to Silas and already pregnant, was first considered a victim, but testimony revealed she had known fully and supported the breeding program. She too faced trial, the courtroom filled with reporters from New York, Boston, and beyond. The evidence undeniable: photographs, journals, testimonies from Mary Catherine, from workers, from physicians, defense lawyers, argued that the family had provided the best care possible for unfortunate children, but images of chained rooms, filthy bedding, scarred skulls destroyed, that claimed the verdict delivered thunder through. Maine: Silas, convicted of conspiracy abuse, kidnapping accessory to murder, sentenced to life in state prison, where he died in 1863, still declaring he had acted for the greater good. Caleb, convicted of multiple murders, received death sentence, though he died before execution. Jeremiah imprisoned servants, punished the mills sold to cover care of surviving children, and trial costs. Milbrook Falls collapsed. Without its industry, families moved away, buildings abandoned. The Weatherbe mansion stood empty. Locals claimed cries still echoed from its shuttered 3rd floor until it was finally demolished. Mary Catherine O'Brien moved to Boston, supported by physicians who recognized her courage. She married, lived quietly, raised children, never speaking publicly again, though her testimony remained in records. The surviving Weatherbe children placed in state institutions, most too damaged to live long. One adopted child survived to adulthood. Portland, carrying hidden traces of the cursed bloodline. Medical schools studied the case as a warning, proof of the dangers of cousin marriage, proof of what secrecy, power, and silence can allow. This story shows how unchecked authority and blind faith can shield atrocity for generations, until one voice risks everything to reveal the truth. Do you believe all secrets of the Weatherbe family were uncovered, or might more have been buried with Silas in his grave? Share your thoughts in the comments. If this tale gripped you, subscribe now so you never miss the next dark history, and share this story with someone who loves mysteries, because silence hides horror, but voices bring light.